discussed this a little bit on Rip and the Silverback over on Az's channel. Go shout out to Hill versus Babyface. And there was, I don't know what's gotten into Variety, where it's a soft hit piece, but it is them acknowledging and being kind of late to the party, perhaps a few years. And there are some things, Crisis at Marvel, and they're talking about reshoots and all this other issues that they're having, right? Now, the Jonathan Major things, that's going to be a big thing, right? But I think that's a little overstated. Yes, that's if you're shooting material with a guy that either might not be available or maybe it may be bad for you if some allegation or something becomes true and you still move forward with them. You got to make some adjustments. That is a thing. However, just considering the direction they were going with Kang the Conqueror and all that stuff, I don't think that this was going to work either way. But some of the other things, the underperformance of Quantumania, they acknowledge. The fact that the Marvels is tracking to do, despite spending all this money, is tracking in a direction that is not good, right? Yes, they made all this money with Endgame at the end of 2019. They moved into the next phase and they made some bonehead decisions. It says right here, the Marvels, which opens up in theaters November 10, will struggle to get the ball past the infield. Movie cost $250 million. It's actually way more than that. And it's tracking even below Doctor Strange, or well below Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which actually had a killer opening. You got the Marvels, people that have walked away from it, producers as well, working on another film. Wow, it was still in post-production, the Marvels. It's just a lot of dysfunction going on over there. But it's really this simple. They have a content problem. And they can't get people enthusiastic about this stuff anymore, even, and maybe perhaps especially the normies. You look at Feige and what it is that he's doing and what it is that they're talking about VFX and those being crap. There is one instance where they do talk about some of the content issues, which, again, those are the primary problems. Now, the easy part would be to blame the fatigue, and fatigue is basically blaming the audience. And they're saying that you are no longer interested in, even if they're producing the best things in the world, there's no such thing as oversaturation, and there's no such thing as a quality problem, which, you know, that lets them off easy. That lets producers off easy. That lets directors and people that have put their foot in their mouth, that lets them off easy when you say that there's something else, like, oh, well, the audience they just moved on to better things. Why did they move on? Why don't you address that? It's a content problem. That's why Marvel is in the situation that they're in. It's a content problem. It is you didn't use Disney Plus properly. You tried to push all these characters that nobody asked for, and you didn't even do the proper due diligence, or rather, you didn't focus on building them up. Because I would even argue that Thanos wasn't even that known to the normies, but at least you built them up in a way that made him a convincing villain, a convincing threat, right? So you could have lesser known characters and maybe build them up to be to build them up into prominence, but you don't even care to do that. It's all artificial. And more importantly, the other thing is the context. Look, guys, you bought out Fox. What was the point? To let them ride on the shelf? What you should have did, you should have fast tracked everything you can, even if it meant pivoting on some of your original ideas once that Fox deal went through. The next phase, you should have been building up towards Fantastic Four and or the X-Men. That was a layup, but you neglected to do that. Instead, you went to the Eternals, and the only reason you got the Eternals there was because you wanted to check a box. Kevin Feige specifically did that, which is why the Eternals was DOA number one, but why none of the Eternals are actually the Eternals anyway. They looked at them as more obscure characters that they could just change whatever. So this is why, just to try to get a headline and say you had the first gay kiss was things that you focused on instead of just making something that was appealing. It was almost like we moved into the all new, all different era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now you look at what people have to look forward to. Agatha, which isn't even Agatha. That could have been actually your segue into the Fantastic Four, but never mind me. What else did you do? What we got to look forward to? Echo? Ironheart? People can't get behind that, right? No matter how artificial you want this to be, or it's like, hey, you're trying to push these characters that nobody's actually interested in, and you're not even using Disney Plus to your advantage. That could have been an advantage to build, let's say, more lesser known characters, but instead it's nothing burgers. They do mention one of the content issues, and I think this actually embodies everything that's a problem when we start talking about Blade. Let me see if I can get to this. I could pick this whole article apart. I for sure could, but I must have skipped it. But what I really want to focus on is what happened with Blade. Where is that? Where do they talk about this? Right here. Okay. Okay. As public criticism mounts, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. Case in point, the Blade reboot. Ali signed on for the role of the vampire, promising for a 2023 release. Well, that ain't happening. Project has gone through 5 writers, 2 directors, 1 shutdown, 6 weeks before production. And this is the hilarious part, and this represents everything current day Marvel, and I will end on this note. One person familiar with the script, Permutations, says that the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Yeah, that's what I look for in a Blade film. Blade was relegated to the 4th lead. A bizarre idea considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Ali aboard. It's not bizarre when you consider that's current day. It's current day Hollywood. That's current day Marvel. That right there, that one highlight that I have for you right there represents everything that's a problem with this company right now. It's a content problem. Don't let them get away with that. All of the bonehead decisions, you didn't want to move into getting things ready for the characters that you have just sitting on the shelf. You misuse characters. Why the hell is Adam Warlock showing up after Thanos died? I don't know. Maybe because the guys that you got over there ain't geniuses. Marvel became the sandbox for a bunch of people that wanted to advance their careers. They didn't care about comics. They didn't care about comic book characters. They just wanted to signal and try to do things that will catch headlines so they can get admiration and praise from their peers. That's what Marvel became. And the content showed and how mundane it was, how disinterested the audience is, and how much they became just checked out. The audience is not to blame for that. The creatives, and I'll use that term loosely, are the ones to blame for that. That's where the buck stops. It's a content problem. Always was.